All right, John and Amy here with 18 Inches Down, and we have a special guest with us today, James Tolley. And he is the founder and creator of Shared Reality Exchange. We're going to jump into what that is, but first we want to hear who James is. We first met James, Amy and I both at the Red Cross, and we were serving there with the Maui fire situation and helping the fire victims find housing and make that transition. And James was the IT guy, and more than the IT guy, he is an internet programmer. He has had his hands in the internet for a long period of time. But deeper than that, he's a very spiritual person. He's a guy that has a lot of heart for humanity. And he's been dreaming about this reality, shared reality exchange, for quite some time. And we just want to find out who the man James Tolley is. We've had a lot of
Yeah,
great
we know you guys
conversations
do.
since we've met at the Red Cross. We've had coffee shop conversations, which are the best because we just flow back and forth. And we found that we have some real similarities spiritually, but also when it comes to what this looks like in the heart-centered space for humanity today. The consciousness has been shifting, as we all know, and you hear us talk a lot about that on 18 Inches Down. But we had a great conversations with James too, and got emotional, and we just love his heart. We love what he is about, what he's doing, but more so who he is as a person. So welcome to the show, James.
Yay!
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you.
Yeah. So share with
Appreciate
us
this opportunity to share.
share with us a little bit about who you are and what your heart is, and then we can move into why and what shared reality exchange is.
How did it all start, James?
Yeah. So professionally, I've been a programmer since about 1998, an internet programmer. So I've been doing that kind of work, developing systems and just thinking about systems in terms of technology for a long time. And I've been able to apply it to this mission, right? The mission is really the most important part of this. And it started, I guess, from, the Iraq War. So we were, sold a bill of goods around the Iraq War, and 1 million Iraqis were killed. And no one ever paid a price for what seems to be really a crime against humanity. So, as tragic as that is, that's normal in human society still to this day. And
Hmm.
I noticed that there's something wrong with, you know, the world. I look at the world and I see people who are efforting very hard to be happy, and too few
Mhm.
people are happy from my estimation. And so I really want people to be happy, and I want people to be doing things that are making them happy. And
Love that.
I believe that a lot of that is due to what I think is the fact that people believe things that are not true. People
Mm.
are told things that are not true. People go their whole lives being lied to. And we see it more and more today. So it's actually a very timely project right now because things are kind of crescendoing in an absurd way in terms of the narratives of society being, you know, pretty clearly not of good faith. And so I imagine a world where people believe things that are true and they live their lives based on ideas that are true. Specifically, what's going to make them happy, what's going to make their loved ones happy, what's going to be the best way for them to invest in the future of humanity. And so that's where it comes from. And so I wanted to develop a system to help people do that because what we have, humanity is a social species. And at one point in time, we didn't have any science. We were completely disconnected from the truth. And the truth was pretty much what the powerful said it was. And then science came along, and that was an unbelievable breakthrough in humanity's connection with the truth. And now we have a helicopter flying around on Mars, and we have arthroscopic surgery, which is just a miracle happening every day. People have heart
It's
surgery,
amazing.
and then they go home that afternoon. It's unthinkable, 50 years ago. It's like miraculous. but yet people's happiness and well-being is really lagging behind all these advances. And so we need another breakthrough in truth, where the customs that people have and the habits that people have and the ways that people think about themselves and each other in our home could be closer to reality. And I think that if they were closer to reality, people would do things just naturally more in their best interest than what they do. So that's the heart of it.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
Love
it's
that.
I love what you just
Mhm.
shared, and about the part about the something ignited in you, going back to what you said about the Iraq War, and then talking about why things are the way they are. Talk to us a little bit more about where that kind of heart comes from, because as you just said, we're in an egoic society. It's egoically driven by and large, and then there are people waking up, just as we've talked about at the coffee shop. Talk to us a little bit more about where your heart in this comes from, because I think it's super important for the viewers to listen to the contrast, the difference between, is this just another egoic venture, which we know it's not, versus the heart-centered space of what you've just shared. So share with us more about where that comes from in
Hmm.
your life, in your personal life.
Oh, um, well, yeah, I would agree very, very clearly. We live in a world that's driven by ego. So the interests of the powerful really drive the world forward. And
Yeah.
um, with all the advances that we've experienced in the last 50 years, included in that is the project of the powerful to manipulate the masses and to get the masses to do things that are against their best interests. For example, to manipulate and exploit groups that are otherated and scapegoated and marginalized.
Mm,
And so
so true.
those interests of the powerful are really driven by ego, as far as I can see. They want to create a
Yeah.
world that's in the future that they're basically devoting themselves to creating. Meanwhile, I love this little vignette of Jesus, and I think this might be the Gospel of Thomas. He was asked, "What are we going to do to create the heaven on earth?" And he said, "That's not
Yes.
even how you think about it. It's already the kingdom of God is spread out over the whole earth, and people don't see it. So
Mm,
really, and the truth will set you free." I mean, these are major themes, and basically to speak to us about the truth, about the actual truth of who we are and what kind of a universe we live in. So
Mhm,
the interest of the
mhm.
powerful being devoted to creating some kind of a future moment, which is supposedly, better than what's happening right now, is just, it's like a shell game that actually never resolves itself until you just decide to resolve it by stopping chasing your tail, stopping kind of worshiping those golden idols, I would characterize it as. And
Yeah.
once we say, okay, this world is good enough, and I just want to land more and more in the world as it is, then we start to wake up to what is real and what's true, and we get to give up our illusions and our attachments to outcome and our kind of cardboard cutout labels that we put on other people and on ourselves and on groups. And then we get to just open our hearts and
right.
love everything, which is really the point of all of our lives. So that's the actual reality that we are living in. And as long as
Mm,
we allow the powerful to, basically destroy the hopes and dreams of the majority of humanity, um, we're just not on the right track. So if we have the
yes.
conversation that we're having now in a meaningful way in society, everyone will be able to see the wisdom and the truth of it.
Yes.
We need a new medium of communication in order to do that. So we need a new truth determination process, in order for that conversation to take place. So that's why this is not an egoic process, because this is just meant to uncover the truth. And I think the truth is fundamentally threatening to ego, which is why the powerful never want to really open up the microphone to include all conversations that the people want to have. So I get a little
Yeah.
emotional. I get a little shaky thinking about it. Really,
Oh, that's
it still
awesome.
bothers
Shows
me.
you care.
We love it.
That's what we need is people that
Thank you.
care, you know?
I do.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we love that. James, did you have
I'm
something?
just, it's so evident, we all have a piece of the puzzle to play. And this is what I love is that you're combining your natural skills and gifting with, internet programming and all that paired with your heart. It's like that brain and heart coherence, and you are rolling this out saying, I've often heard it said, stop looking for it and become the solution for humanity.
Yeah.
And we've all done
Very
that.
true.
Like we can see it, see it, see it. It's like, but then what are we doing to, we've got this gift skill or a certain love specialty that's true to us for humanity. And that's what I love about you. You're like, you're actually doing it. You're putting it out there. You're taking the next step and you're creating this platform to help humanity. And so it's just, that so inspires us and we
Yes,
love that
it
about you,
does.
and it's such an example for humanity too, to give them courage as well. We each have a unique piece to play here, and thank you for doing that. So yeah, but I
Yeah.
know it strikes a chord for
Yeah,
sure. Like you said, the Iraq, the Iraqi war and the lives lost. And then, like I've heard in some of your other videos, you've talked about just the archaic system too in the courts and
Yeah.
how they kind of pick and choose who goes up there. And it's not an open playing field for truth to really be known. So, I mean, yeah, share a little bit more of your heart on that as well, what you've seen and what you want to see.
in terms of the courts specifically,
Yeah, bringing like a
or
new model, like the new
Yeah.
model that you're rolling out
Right. And we
in
can
the contrast of the old.
we can kind of jump into that for the shared reality exchange. Talk to us about the name. I love the name, by the way. Talk to us about the name, and then we can dive into the just the concept of what you have and what you're wanting to unveil to the world.
so the name Shared Reality Exchange, it it comes from the idea that communities get into power struggle with each other because they believe different things and they're attached to their ideas, they're attached to their leaders and what their leaders say, and then they get into holy wars or world wars, civil wars, genocides, things that are extremely costly and that don't really pop that many people into bliss, that is like totally available to us if we work at it. So the point is that communities, we're all in the same community. That's the reality of it. We are on
Right.
That's
this planet together, and then people project self and other onto people and groups, which is just pure delusion. And then they live their lives as if the other people that they're looking at are the roles that they have projected onto them, which is what
yeah.
chimpanzees do. This is not worthy of us and our lives and our society, our civilization, our species, our world. We're better than that. And there are a lot of us, knocking at the door, and I would like access. I would like the door to be opened. So that's kind of, you know, that's part of it. But so I think that if we all had the conversation where we empathized with the other, as opposed to kind of scapegoated and marginalized and otherated the other
Yes.
through conversation, then we would realize that we actually all live in a shared reality. We all have the same human condition that's filled with
Yeah.
that is made of the same material. Ultimately, we're all made out of spirit and mind, awareness, consciousness. And then there's attachment, there's wishful thinking, there's hope, there's fear, judgment, blame, all the things that we're all familiar with, the temptations of um, those kind of habits of the monkey mind. And then there's our highest
So true.
aspirations for ourselves and other people. And I think we would all like to live in a world that's really characterized by the higher angels of our natures. So I
Yes.
think that is the truth that will be that will be brought to the forefront once we have the conversation, because the people who are wanting to bring their hearts into the world are not getting their way. We are not
Hmm.
Yeah.
influencing the direction of the planet. and it's a crime, and it's a tragedy. So
It is.
It really is.
in a
You
nutshell.
know, and I love that what you just shared. You know, it is the reality about, you know, I know we discussed when we sat down and just shared from the heart was, you know, the reality of a one way or a biased viewpoint that says this is the reality that we live in, but there's no exchange there, you know. And we know from talking is this the egoic side of things, or the nature of our being, wants to be right with facts, right? We talked about the facts versus facets, and we didn't coin that. Another man that we listen to and love is Robert
Yeah.
Edward Grant, and he said that, you know, I thought I had all the facts until I had an awakening, and then I realized that it was facets. I just had a facet, so I had to plop an e in there in between the facts. And so oftentimes the ego just wants to take its stand on facts, which you know, facts in and of themselves could be a true reality. However, there's more to the story, like you just mentioned. There's more to the exchange and a shared reality. You know, somebody has a viewpoint and they may have some real truth there, but then another viewpoint has another facet and they have truth there. So having this transparency is so key, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. What comes up for me hearing you say that is that people, like, our ideas and our thoughts are facts that we believe are true, and we kind of, take it very seriously. The facts, certain facts, they only just are useful in that they meet emotional needs. And so we want to really meet people's emotional needs. We don't want people to be trying to kind of bully each other with facts, or
Right.
say we're
Right.
right, we have
Right.
the only truth, and those other people are, our enemy because they don't believe what we believe. And if they only believe the ideas that we believe, then everything would be great. Like, that's a real
Mhm.
Yeah.
shell game as well. Like,
Yeah.
um, let's
Impossible.
just have empathy and kindness and open-heartedness and have our emotional needs met. We don't need to kind of argue about facts. We really just need to be here for each other. That's what comes up for
Yeah.
me. And the facets and facts thing kind of really points to that in a really good way for me. The
Yeah.
facet just has like a kind of openness or an unknown. Like, I'm not going to be stuck on one fact. It's just there might be other facets I'm not seeing right now. And it's that kind of don't know mind that Buddhists like to
Yeah.
talk about is really represented in that, I think.
That's so true. It's that flexibility, right? For flow to bring more
Yeah.
answers and more solutions, where like the whole 3D mindset is just of this absolutes. And when we put in just absolute, we block all the new information coming. It's like a flower. So we're going to settle on the one petal that's opening up. That's an absolute. It's not going to go any further. It's like, wait a minute. Now
Right.
there's all these other petals opening up to give you the full impact. And so,
You
yeah,
said it.
I love that you think
You
like
said it.
that too. Just
That that is the exact what you just said, I think, is just a kind of encapsulates our whole situation on the planet as a species, where the powerful are in some kind of egoic power struggle with other groups that they're competing with.
Yeah.
And they think that that's reality. And then because they're in positions of authority over other people, then other people take on that reality as if it's true. And it is 100% an illusion. Even though it might seem solid as a rock mountain, it is 100% just made out of complete illusion and fantasy. And I would just like to knock and say, let's have a talk about that.
yeah,
Yeah, you know,
yes,
you mentioned, and this is a real point that, you know, you mentioned an example of like climate change for some, you know, some it's a real reality in their minds, and then others it's just like made up. So there's a stark contrast on something that's such an enormous topic. So give us an example of what that does, and what you were talking about before as a shared type of reality for people. How can we look at something as big as a subject of climate change and come to the table on that?
Yeah,
yeah,
great question. Thank you. So, climate change and what some people would call the climate crisis, is a very high stakes, dramatic power struggle. between different camps who have
Right.
different sources of truth. So these are communities that don't really have much cross-pollination of ideas across social boundaries, and they are ossifying or solidifying their stance that's based on the things that they're hearing. And so there's like a bit of a silo or an information silo or kind of an echo chamber that communities get into these patterns. And what we want to do is cross-pollinate ideas across social boundaries and give them a better source of truth so that everybody can come together in a shared reality that's based on the truth, and we can stop kind of engaging in behaviors that are very costly and counterproductive. And so what we have is an information ecosystem is we have a design of an information ecosystem that really allows disinformation and these kinds of information silos to thrive. And what we need to do is actually add some features to our information ecosystem in order to create these kinds of shared realities where they don't exist between some groups. And the reason that we have this is because we have the intermediaries of media storytellers in between the people who know things and the people who want to know those things. So, for example, we have
Mm.
climate scientists there are between 2,000 and 7,000 atmospheric climate scientists in the English-speaking world at the
Wow.
PhD
Wow.
level. That is not a moonshot. That's a small number relatively for creating a poll. And
Mm.
if we found them and vetted them, made sure that they were who they say they are and they have the credentials that they say they do, then we can access that community. And by polling that community, we can actually get a source of truth that's really the best source of truth that we have on that topic as a social species, as humans in the situation that we are in. The best source of truth is the mainstream view of that community. But right
Right.
now, because we're stuck with dealing with the intermediary storytellers of the media who really don't know anything about climate science, and they have their own motives that we don't know anything about,
There you
not the least of
go.
which is to make money, then we cannot verify the things that we hear in the media. The public
Right.
needs to verify the things that we hear. And the only way that we can really do that is to go kind of to the horse's mouth, go to the mainstream public opinion of that community that knows the most among us and get that information directly from each member of that community so that we can actually tell when a media voice presents us with a climate scientist and they say something, we can actually know whether that person is a mainstream voice or a radical voice in the community that they're supposedly representing. So what the shared reality exchange does is it creates that two-way, transparent, direct communication between the public and the climate science community so that the public opinion of the general population can be tied to the public opinion of the community that knows the most among us on that topic or any topic. In that way, the public opinion of the general public will be reasonably connected to reality as best that we can do
Ah,
it.
Love that.
that is gold. That
Love
is just
love that.
gold.
They
Thanks
really
so
it
much.
really is
It's
because
like,
it ties it all together.
yeah, it's like taking a big just eraser to all the brainwashing that we've gone through for decades, right? By the middleman
Yeah,
and the powers
Yeah.
that be controlling. And now we have the tools like you're doing right now to
Yeah.
create a platform where we can give pure, good information that
Transparent.
is scientifically based and accurate to the best of all's ability. And so this is
yeah,
great and so needed, and what a perfect timing again for this, because people are wanting the
Yeah.
difference. We have seen just the amazing split, right? We went through the whole thing with Facebook, where they were blocking truth coming through, and then YouTube was blocking truth from coming through. And so now there's these
Yeah.
upstarts of other platforms being created for the hunger of people
That's
saying,
right.
let's get the truth out there, and I want to hear the truth. So this is again such key and such good timing.
yeah.
It really is.
Thank you
It's
so
it's the
much for doing that.
consciousness.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the difference
And you
between so Facebook or YouTube or any other intermediary that's a publisher, they don't really know anything. they know how to sound really convincing. They know how to, like politicians and pundits, they know how to sound like what they're saying is 100% true.
Right.
They're really great storytellers. They're great at like cultivating audiences and things like that, but they don't know anything about the law or medicine or climate science or anything else. And so anything that they say, even if they're a fact checker trying to come in with a good faith effort to try and create truth around the truth, um, we can't verify we need a way to verify their claims. Otherwise, we were totally powerless. And that's the situation. The public is really on the receiving end of a lot of abuse, and we have no alternatives. So without
Yeah.
the ability to verify their claims, yeah, it's just another fact checker is actually just asserting more things into the public mind that's contradicting other things, and then people are actually not any better off, unfortunately.
They're not, because when they're led down a rabbit trail that they believe to be true, it's amazing to us, and like we've discussed this before, is that people just buy into something just because they see that the mass public is like saying yes to it. It's like the sheep being led to the slaughter, right? It's no different than the FDA approving all of the boxed food items, the
Yeah, and
refined
nobody
sugars and
questioning,
and
right?
all that, and nobody questions what's in it, just because the FDA approves something. It doesn't mean it's good for us. But this is where we ask the questions, right? And I'm so glad that you've been asking the questions, and then you get the download for what you're engaging in now. I mean, it's super important to read the back of the box, right? And
Mhm.
And
the
then know the
ingredients
makers behind it, and
and the
like you
makers behind
said,
it.
go to the source, not just the
Exactly.
publishers that are just being paid to publish the information or whatever that they kind of gather. It's like, no, go to the source
Yeah.
and see what their intentions and motives are. Are they good, and is it true and good for humanity?
Yeah. There's an interesting dynamic that comes up hearing you say that, which is that everyone now, because we're all kind of desperate for the truth and we're feeling very frustrated, um, is we all need to do our own research, which is
Right.
not a sustainable situation because we don't have enough time to know everything about
Mm,
everything.
Right.
That's just
yeah.
the reality of it. So we need to be able to trust each other to a certain degree, and we need to be able to do work in terms of finding out truth that other people can then benefit from. And so that's another aspect of the shared reality exchange is that it's a crowdfunding platform ultimately. So communities who want answers to questions can come together and fund, gather the resources necessary to say, ask and pay climate scientists for their information. But once we gather that information, then that information is spread to everyone who's interested in it for free, and that way everybody gets to benefit from the work of a group, from any group that wants to do any work around creating the truth or gathering the truth for people's benefit. I would actually love to show you, if I
Let's
could,
do it.
Yes, let's do it.
what that looks like. So um, I'm just wondering if I should talk about the design of it a little bit more before I show you
Sure. Whatever you want to do.
Yeah,
show you what it
whatever
looks
James.
you
like.
want the
So
public to know.
yeah. So the Shared Reality Exchange is a website and a browser extension. So the browser extension is a really important part of it. The website is a crowdfunding platform like Kickstarter or Indiegogo or GoFundMe. So its business model is extremely well tried and true. There's a lot of money flowing around in those businesses. I'm sure you're aware. And so, but where those businesses, the projects that those businesses usually crowdfund for, their products or music or creative things or things like that. And what we would be crowdfunding for are answers to questions. So if you want to
Mm.
ask, PhDs in climate science, whether climate change is real and is caused by human activity, there are probably 100 million other people who would be willing to pay some money in order to get those answers too. We come together as a community, ask those questions. We go out, the Shared Reality Exchange goes out, finds those people, has them all vouch for each other so that we get some insight into the web of their community, the social web, and we vet those people to the degree that is reasonably possible, and then we ask them those questions, and then they rate them on a 5-star review. And I want to show you what happens with those 5-star reviews. So once they're collected,
Great.
we disseminate them to people. This is
Excellent.
just an example.
Sure.
Um, this is just an example data. This is not real data, but it's a good example. I can show you how it works. So this is a website. Can you see this?
Sure can.
Oh, okay. So this is a publisher, and I read this statement. In Latin, the prefix il means bad, and lumen is the root for light. Combined into Illuminati, it means quite literally bad lighting, as in darkness and shadows. So I read that, and I thought, that's not true. And that probably has happened to some of you. You know, when
Yeah.
you're browsing around the internet, you come across something and you're like, not true. And then you don't do anything about it because there's really nothing to be done about it that's productive. So what I did is I entered that into the system. So I built the shared reality system as a prototype. So there is a prototype that's pretty darn fleshed out at this point. But I'm now transitioning into rebuilding it into technology that's more appropriate for the task, which is a pretty big task. I'll go into that a little bit later. But for right now, so you can see that I entered it into the system, and I have the browser extension installed here. And when I hover over it, I get to see this little alarm warning icon, which means that specialists are highly suspicious of this claim. So when I read it, I thought, Illuminati means the illuminated ones or the enlightened ones. So so I added that information to the system, and then when you right click it, you see this window pop up. This
Okay.
window, it shows this assertion, and then it has the exact text that is in this web page right here, and it supports the idea. So an assertion could support the idea or undermine or contradict an idea. So in this case, it supports the idea. The Illuminati in Latin means bad lighting, as in darkness and shadows. So in this demo, I created a campaign where I asked 5 Latin scholars if that's true, and they rated it
Nice.
demo that there's 1 star out of 5. It's basically not true. And so I can click on that, and I can get like Amazon style reviews, right? So I get to
That's
see
great.
the
Definitely.
distribution of those views of those votes, and then down here I get to see. So I get to see the ideas that either support or contradict this idea. So there's going to be evidence or reasons why people either believe or disbelieve another idea. And down here you can get, if you have another 5 or 10 seconds to invest in getting clarity on this issue, you can open up these what are called child reasons. Objections would be reasons to disbelieve it. Merriam-Webster dictionary defines Illuminati in English as any of various groups claiming special religious enlightenment, for example. That's very true, according to these 5 Latin scholars, but it's not relevant at all because what Illuminati means in English is not important relative to what it means in Latin. But you can see the truth and relevance scores there. Some online Latin dictionaries do not provide an entry for Illuminati. That's very true, and it's very relevant. And some of the online dictionaries offer definitions for words similar in spelling to Illuminati, illumino, illuminare, illuminato, and that kind of thing, as something similar to illuminate, illumination, enlightened, enlightening, and similar definitions. So you could see that that's very true and that's very relevant. So,
I
and then
love that.
to believe it, which is, Google Translate defines the Latin root il as not and lumen as light. Therefore, the etymology would support the translation not light, which one could consider as synonymous with bad light or closely associated with the idea bad light, no light, darkness, shadowy, etc. So that's not very true and also not very relevant, so according to this just
Wow.
hypothetical conversation. So you can see that
Wow.
Wow.
Amazing.
can actually get into details of conversations in this using that document type, which is called an argument map, in a way that we cannot get into in just free form text that all news articles and um, you know most communications online are just paragraph based text, which doesn't create that kind of clarity, and it doesn't include both sides of an argument in that way.
You're
If
right.
we look at the person's name who said that, then we can click on it because his name has been entered into the system, and we can see, his URLs where he speaks in his own voice, and we can see the tags of the topics that he likes to talk about, and then we can see the unpopular ideas that they have said among specialists. So here you get to see the things basically that they lied about, um, and then you get to see the challenge campaigns um, that are open, basically requests for a comment. So if we go to, so I just want to highlight for you, I'm going to just stop the sharing for a minute. So what we have with crowdfunding campaigns are basically conversations where we include both sides of an argument and we compare apples to apples across social boundaries by using a document type called an argument map. An argument map
I love that.
is a
Yeah.
document type
Yeah.
that's been proven to help to create a shared reality with people who don't already agree with each other on all points. And so it's basically to create a conversation, to create a medium where people can give rebuttals and counter rebuttals to the other side's assertions and evidence, um, and then have their own claims be rebutted as well. So that basically the specialist community can basically have a conversation about these ideas right in front of all of us. And so people can
Right.
assert what they want, but it's just going to get rated by people who actually know, and then everybody else is going to know. And it's not like it's not so the dynamic that we have today is very overlapping shouting match like, where
Right.
everything that's said, that person's other, that person's wrong and bad, we're going to exile them from our community, and then communities get fractured, even families get fractured. It's super tragic.
Yeah.
So what we have is the dynamic where we bring people together, even if people make absurd claims. We really want to see what is it that you saw that led you to believe that that is true. Maybe you know
Yeah.
something that we don't. Let's all have a conversation about it. Let's look at your evidence so that we can all live in a shared reality based on the truth. And then we can ask you and pay you to acknowledge and respond to the evidence that actually informs the the opposite opinion, so that we can actually see if you have high quality
Right.
rebuttals to some evidence that the rest of us take seriously, and think is pretty conclusive.
So
Yes,
So
it is.
this is amazing.
Amazing.
I just love this, the thoughts behind it, the technology. Where do you see this currently, it as in process? I know you've been developing it, the whole concept, but then you're bringing it to just as what we saw on screen, you're bringing it to fruition. Where are we currently right now with the shared reality exchange and its launch?
okay. So I did create what's called a Web 2.0 prototype. So Web 2.0 is very standard. It means basically an internet where the intelligence of the crowd gets to create information that benefits everyone. So Amazon ratings are a perfect example of that, or Rotten Tomato ratings, right? So there's
Mhm.
people, each person doesn't have the truth, but then you gather everyone's opinion about a movie or whatever, and then that gives you an idea about whether it's a good movie,
Yeah.
supposedly.
General consensus. Yeah.
Not perfect, but it does benefit a lot of people, and that kind of crowd intelligence is really valuable. So that's Web
Right.
2.0. Web 3.0 is really, I created the prototype in the Web 2.0 world. Unfortunately, Web 2.0 is not a reasonable technology to use to challenge state actors of disinformation. So if we're talking about Vladimir Putin, a normal website is not going to be able to withstand you know, his interference. So there are a lot of reasons for that, but just to cut to the chase, the technology, the only technology that's available now that's possible to actually create, um, that's really robust enough and secure enough and unhackable enough to actually succeed in that mission of uh, challenging the powerful is blockchain technology. And so I'm writing what's going to be the first live, real production, quote unquote, version of this software in blockchain. So that's what I'm doing now. And I have a website up called sharedreality.exchange. And if you want to be part of the conversation, there's an email sign up list on that, and you
Yes.
can follow along. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's
For
where
those
we
that
are
don't
now.
know what, great, I love it. For those that don't know what blockchain
Yeah,
is,
that's
can
just
you
it.
kind of share and describe what that is for those that are just kind of
Hmm.
clueless to the technology?
And why you chose to go that
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
route.
why you
That'd be
chose that?
great.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah. So blockchain is a technology with a lot of hand waving and a lot of fraud, right? So it's kind of the Wild West in a way. There's a lot of money flowing around, and there's not many regulations and things like that. And there are big conversations happening around all aspects of it. But it's really in its infancy, and it's growing very quickly. And despite all the fraud and all the hand waving and things like that, it actually is a technology that is very remarkably different and better than what we have, what we use as normal now. So the reason for that is basically because it's unhackable, it's
Nice.
uncensorable, and it's totally transparent, meaning you can remove a middleman. It basically acts as a clear, it's not a
Right.
black box, it's a clear box, and it replaces middlemen. So in the beginning, it was meant to replace the middlemen of banks, which were in between people wanting to do transactions with each other, but they had to pay the bank a little bit of money just to transact some money, which, and then the bank gets to say who can do it and has other requirements and things like that. So to just remove the middleman from those currency
Love it.
transactions was the point of blockchain in the beginning. And so what we do, it's actually perfectly in line with the essence of the strengths of blockchain is to remove the middlemen of information and truth. So if we want to remove the storytellers between the people who know things and the people who want to know those things, blockchain is really the only technology available because
Mm.
you don't want to trust you don't want to trust a middleman. We're a little bit beyond that at this point. Like the media
Yeah.
is a middleman with its own unknown motives. Twitter takes information in, does something with it, and then shows a different reality to every different person. So every different person thinks that they're living in a different world. And we don't know what Twitter's doing inside their code. We don't have access to
Right.
that. But we want to
Wow.
have a system where we can see what information went in, we can see what was done to that information, and we can see what information is coming out. And the only technology that provides total transparency, both in terms of data and in terms of code, is blockchain. So that's why blockchain
Mm.
is the only reasonable solution.
It's great.
And the way it accomplishes this is that instead of a bank, for example, having their database and it's like they have a moat and they have a castle that like guards their database. Blockchain has thousands and thousands of copies of the same database all over the world. And
Wow.
Mm.
to make a long story short, there are ways to show um, through cryptographic algorithms that if you have your private key, you're the only one who can, you know, someone knows that you sent a message because it was signed with your private key. So anyone with that ID, you know,
Gotcha.
it acts as a form of ID, then they can masquerade as you. But if you are careful with your private key, then the only person who can send messages signed with that private key is you. So it actually
Mm.
Great.
authenticates you without anyone else's permission. Yeah, which is why
Wow.
we don't need a middleman anymore. So,
I love
It's
it.
great.
so
The
that's kind of
technology is advancing.
yeah. So it's right now it's in its infancy. It's like we're in kind of 2005, fewer than a billion people on the internet level of, in terms of the rise of Web3. It's rising similarly to the rise of the internet, but right now we're still in baby steps, still kind of getting there.
Yeah.
So it's kind of exciting, but it allows us to do
It
something
is.
where Vladimir Putin would not have any real ability to destroy a blockchain solution to the disinformation problem because he'd have to control 51% of the network, or he would have to set up a firewall around his country. Right? Super conspicuous thing to do. It takes a lot of effort. As long as he doesn't do that, then that information is going to be available to his people. Um, Yeah, and he can't hack it, so he's not going to be able to impersonate anyone else. He's not going to be able to steal anybody's money or anything like that. So I think
So
that's good.
having said
Wow.
that,
I
along
love
the
this.
money and the really the having a key, like a solo key for it to just to have this technology that is more secure. What are your thoughts along the line of cryptocurrency and the token for something like this? I know we mentioned it a little bit, but that would kind of lend into the whole blockchain technology, wouldn't it?
Yes, yes, very much so. So the standard practice in for blockchain projects like this one is to come out with a token. And if people are inspired by the project, they want the project to succeed, and they want to benefit from being able to use the token in the future on the platform when it's created, they would buy the token, and they would do it.
Gotcha. Okay.
We can cover that in the future, but we're going to come out with our token for this project probably
That's
in the next
great.
month or so. And what that's going to be able to help people do is, because we're a crowdfunding platform. I don't know if you know how crowdfunding platforms work, but they take a percentage of the donations that are made on their
Right.
platform. So they take Kickstarter takes between 5 and 9%,
Right.
Which is,
and
yeah,
so
fair.
we will be able to accept donations in any currency, any cryptocurrency, or any what's called fiat currency, or any normal currency like British pounds or euros or dollars or whatever. But we would charge a fee. The idea at this point is we would charge a fee like Kickstarter, like normal in that industry,
Yeah.
if people donated using a currency other than our own currency. But if people donated with our own currency, then we wouldn't charge them a fee. That
Mm.
would
Okay.
basically increase their donation by between 5 and 9%. The other
Gotcha.
benefit that we can offer people who donate with our currency is we can give them back their money at the end of a campaign. So sometimes
Oh,
you see
wow.
crowdfunding campaigns have like 30-day time limits. That wouldn't be the case here because there might be some unanswered questions at the end of 30 days. The
Mm.
point is actually to get the answers. But once people feel satisfied with the answers that they got, then if there's money left over, it either gets returned to the person's account in the system, where they can then donate it to other campaigns, or they can withdraw it. And if they donate with our currency, then they could just withdraw no fee. If they donate with a different kind of a currency, they can withdraw for a fee, or they can just leave their value in the system and donate it to another campaign. So there are different ways that we can motivate people to want to own the the our token, our currency, because they'll be able to do things on the platform that they won't be able to do otherwise. So that's a
That's
pretty
great.
pretty big part of what we're trying to do, is to come out with a token and let people know about it if they feel like supporting the project and also benefiting when the time comes.
Oh, for
You
sure.
know,
For sure.
this is amazing. I just see this. We've shared before, but one of the first times that we met, just hearing your heart behind this, hearing the potential of this. I think, again, like Amy said, and you have mentioned that we're in a point in time in this consciousness right now across the earth that people not only want to know more of a reality of truth and what is truth, because there's so much misinformation out there, like you've mentioned, that this I really feel the timing for this is just right
Oh.
on. And
Mhm.
this has the potential, I believe, in being just bigger than any kind of Google situation. And not to say anything about that, because Google has served us well in finding things and finding information. However, like you said, there's so much behind that that's going on, the powers that be and
Mhm.
people that actually have started these platforms. But from your heart, James, in the shared reality exchange, I think it's so important for people listening that if you feel any draw, any pull towards this and saying, yes, I can seize the potential, even if I don't understand it, that's okay. Because as time goes on, we're going to be doing more interview type things with James, but also the information that he's going to be giving out stage by stage is really important to know that, wait a minute, this is legit, it's authentic, it's
Yeah.
genuine, it's unlike anything we've ever seen. And if anybody's listening and wants to personally support you, James,
Yes.
um, how would they get a hold of you? I know that you have the sharedreality.exchange website, correct?
Yes.
But what if they want to just personally kind of say, "Hey, I love what James is doing. I want to get behind him." Um, is there any way that they can personally support you?
Well, I think the easiest way is to go to sharedreality.exchange, the website, and to sign up for the email list. And I'll be letting everyone know when the token comes out. And if they wanted
Okay.
to um, purchase some of that token, that would help a lot. Um,
Okay.
but other than that, I really want to be available for anyone who really has a strong desire to contribute to the project. I hesitate to put my personal phone number in this video.
Right. Right.
I'm not
Email's
sure
good.
how to do it in the best way.
Yeah.
No, email is great.
Email's
Then
great.
they
I
can
Okay.
connect to you further.
right.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can
And
send an email to info@sharedreality.exchange. That would be one way to get in touch with me directly.
That's great.
okay, email to info
Info.
at sharedreality.exchange for all of you that are listening. And there's so much more that we can talk about surrounding this whole idea. And I love it, James, that we had talked about this being a long road for you, and for so many that are carrying something that is literally life changing. And I just want to thank you personally. I know Amy and I talk about this. We want to thank you for your heart. Thank you for bringing this to fruition.
Yes, it
Um,
takes a lot.
it
We
takes a
know
lot.
you have to overcome a lot of mental
It,
barriers, natural barriers. You carry it for a long time, and yeah, we just so honor you that you did it and you're walking it forward for all of us and for humanity.
it's big. It's big. I can just see the future in
Thank
this.
you.
Is that, and here's another thing, guys. Everyone listening, that those that know James know that he's not doing this for the money. It's for the heart of what he just shared, and bringing something out to the public eye that says, "Wait a minute, we need to do something for humanity that
Yeah.
is completely different and more heart centered," because that's the way we're going. Amy
Hmm.
and I talk about this all the time, is that we are humanity, thankfully, is waking up.
Yeah.
We are awakening.
The
And
great
it's
awakening.
it's not the woke thing as so much as it is an awake thing. And there's a difference, because one is can
Very big
have
difference.
the embedment of egoic structures, although there's some element of truth to the awakening part of that, because if there wasn't any kind of uproar or any kind of egoic showing, if you will, throughout humanity to say, "Hey, we're fed up," then we wouldn't even become self-aware enough to know that we need to awaken. And I think all of it's necessary. We're not advocating any kind of harm to anyone. That's not what I'm saying. However, sometimes that happens when people see something systemic going wrong or going sideways, and they're like, "Wait, something is definitely off here. I need to really go within and see what's happening in my own life." And so I know that's what you've been doing, James. People have been really looking at this, the condition of humanity,
Yeah.
and saying, "What do we do?
Right.
What do we do?" and
Right.
and shared reality exchange is a big part of that, right?
So true. I mean, we have all said it in conversations, sitting, talking with people. It's like somebody needs to start something. Somebody needs to do
Yeah.
something about this. Somebody needs to start a platform or give the people a voice. And that is what we love about what you're creating. You are bringing in the new
Oh yeah.
as a heart-centered community, as a
No doubt.
planet of just, okay, well, here we go. Here is a new way of having open discussions and getting rid of the middleman. And you're bringing solutions, a heart-centered solution
Yeah.
to humanity. And this is just, again, it's gold and on time.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Thank
So
you.
any
Thank you so much
final
for saying that.
things that
I
you want to
really, yeah, I just
go
want to
ahead,
thank
James?
you both because I can't do this by myself. And I just really appreciate your enthusiasm and your warmth and your seriousness and your heart and your following through with bringing this message to more people who could benefit. And I just feel a huge amount of resonance with you both and a good amount of
Same.
synchronicity that this is where we should be right now. during this
Yes.
exact thing.
Same.
Oh,
Same, James.
yeah, my
Yeah.
pleasure.
So we just want to thank you again, James, for being here. I thank everyone for watching. And again, if you want to get a hold of James and find out more information, go to the website sharedreality.exchange. Get a hold of him there. If
Join
you have
the
any
email
questions,
list.
join the email list, and then watch for the next sharing of information here. And then we'll just take it one step at a time, and we're so excited for what's next. We're super we talk about this, we're just engaged, and I know that the people that you've shared this with are excited as well. So
Yes.
we just want to thank you again, James, and for everybody watching, we'll see you on the
Wait for
next
more.
one.
It's coming. Yes. All right, everyone. Have a great
Thank
day.
you, everybody.
All right, aloha.
Aloha.